Hello, everyone. In this screencast, we're going to talk about perspectives on human development, or really ways of explaining how we develop as human beings. This is covered in Chapter 1 of your textbook. We'll start off by talking about various forces that impact any aspect of your human development, from the biological to the psychological to the social aspects. We'll then talk more specifically about an evolutionary perspective to explain your development, as well as an ecological systems perspective. What influences your personality, your sexual behavior or orientation, or say an issue like drug addiction? Let's take the last one. What causes somebody to become addicted to drugs? As you may suspect, many things do. In human development, we talk about the biological aspects. For example, somebody's propensity for alcoholism or drug abuse is influenced by their body's enzymes' ability to, say, break down alcohol, which may be inherited from your parents. So we're talking about genetics, biology to reflect this biological level. But what else? There are other things that influence how likely somebody is to become an alcoholic, right? Well, there are psychological aspects like the way you think and the way you feel and deal with emotions, etc. That's the psychological aspect, your ability to cope with life challenges, for example. Finally, there's the social or sociocultural level. For example, think about your college dormitory environment and its use of alcohol versus somebody, for example, who grew up in Saudi Arabia, where alcohol is forbidden. So these also influence your propensity to drug use, and more generally, the biopsychosocial forces influence all aspects of your development. More specifically, we talk about perspectives that help us explain many questions in human development. So, for example, take this question: why do some babies become calm and happy adults, whereas others become anxious and unhappy? What could explain this? Well, we could look at it in various ways. One way is through an evolutionary perspective, and another one is through an ecological systems. There are many other ways of explaining questions in human development, and you're encouraged to read up on these since we will be covering them later on or soon in the course. In a nutshell, I assume that all of you guys are familiar with Darwinian evolution and its premise that we, as human beings and all beings on Earth, share a common ancestry, and therefore our development as human beings is similar because of our common DNA heredity. We go through the same developmental changes at about the same time points in our lives because of these basic natural selection processes. So, our development reflects our evolutionary past. We go from a single cell to a multicellular organism, both in utero to when you grow up as a human being, as well as through millions of years of evolution. We also have similar stages that we go through, say a reptilian-like stage, both in evolution in a large time scale, but also, again, developing in utero. We all start off with a little tail and then become more and more similar to an actual human being. So we mimic this evolutionary development on a smaller time scale as human beings. There has been very little change since our genus came along about 200,000 years ago as Homo sapiens, biologically speaking. This evolutionary perspective also relates to a key issue in human development, which is this debate of nature versus nurture. What is it? Are you more likely to be straight or gay based on your genes or based on your environment as you grew up? Well, in psychology, we tend to say it's both. It's nature and nurture. So we'll always address these issues from this perspective, being the two of them. And they, of course, relate to an evolutionary one. Try to go back and think about the question that we posed about the baby temperament. Why are some babies likely to become anxious adults? Does anxiety confer any evolutionary advantage? Maybe. It might get you to get things done, right? when you feel anxious about something. But also being calm and happy will confer some advantage in terms of mating and passing on your genes. That's the evolutionary perspective. Finally, the ecological systems perspective, as espoused by Bronfenbrenner, invites you to think, what influences have acted upon you to make you who you are? Was it your family, your parents in your immediate microsystem, your daycare, your neighborhood? Was it the institutions like your parents' workplace and the community health services and the library belonging to your exosystem? Or was it more generally the macro environment that you found yourself in? Your country's belief systems, values, culture. For example, the American values of equality or individualism or achievement and materialism. According to Bronfenbrenner and this ecological systems perspective, all of those levels were interconnected in shaping who you are. This perspective also connects to another key issue in human development, which is that of sociocultural variation. Who would you have been had you been born of a different gender, of a different race, of a different socioeconomic status? Think about that. For this lecture, you should be able to compare and contrast developmental theories and apply them, as well as look at this biopsychosocial framework and apply it to any relevant developmental questions now and throughout the course. Now that you're able to do all of this, you're also ready for your second discussion assignment, which is posted on your Canvas course shell under week 2. Again, call out button, and you will see a discussion posted entitled Video Games from an Evolutionary Perspective. You're invited to share your ideas. I will catch you on the next podcast or screencast.